Next. Number one. Next. Next. Ishra.
I don't hate you. You really need to stay out of my way.
And number one.
I recognize you, but I'm not afraid of you.
Still disconnect. It's our YouTube.
In town and was done in a few minutes. He didn't really know what was planted, but if he could harvest it, then he wouldn't have to worry about food supplies. But even so, it would take a while until it grew. He decided to fish something for the dinner. While fishing, he was thinking about the life he had before and now. He decided to sacrifice some rice balls for Mr. Hephaestus for giving him such a great skill. A fish came on his hook, and he thought it was a big one because it was pretty hard to control. When he finally managed to pull the rod up, he saw that he was holding a mermaid instead of a fish. He couldn't believe he fished up a girl, then realized that it wasn't a girl, it was a mermaid. The mermaid girl scolded him for fishing her. Before he could say anything, the mermaid stated that since she got fished by him, he had to marry her. While thinking that, the distance suddenly dropped to 0. He was shocked that he got a mermaid wife in another world. The mermaid was complaining about her situation while he was thinking about how different she looked from the book's illustration. She stated that she couldn't return to the ocean anymore, but he thought she was exaggerating. The mermaid got even angrier and told him that she had no choice but to become his spouse. She ordered him to take some responsibility and provide for her. He tried to make some excuses and told her to think that through a little. She agreed with him, saying that he schools, food, and house by himself and live a humble life. It was different from the life of a mermaid, but if that is what he wanted, she was understanding. Apparently, medicinal magic was her species' ancestral magic, and she was actually a famous magic user in that respect. He didn't seem to believe her, so she told him that she would show him if he didn't get it with a weird accent. She told him to wait and went back to the sea to get her things from home. When she left, Itonami decided to build a simple house. In 1 hour, he made a shack. He got tired and went inside to rest. He fell asleep while thinking about the mermaid and was sure she wouldn't come back. She woke him up and he told her to put some clothes on again. Got her tools for medicinal magic. She explained that if he combined medicinal plants or similar things with magic, he would obtain medicinal magic. There were several applications for the various solutions he could devise, and because ordinary people could utilize them as well, they were highly valuable. She wasn't done showing him stuff, she brought a huge fish, and it was a Ba Herring G, which is a fish-type monster that had a lot of mana stored inside its body. She cut, boiled, extracted, and powdered the fish, and created a product named Ba Herring G Fertilizer. If he spread that on his field, his plants would grow faster. Itonami was surprised that she was doing all that for the field. The following day, the crops were all grown, and he accepted that Ba Herring G was amazing, but she claimed that the amazing one was actually her. He ignored her and tasted a tomato, and it was delicious. The mermaid also tried it, and it was so tasty. She was astounded that the land dwellers ate such delicious foods all the time. She was going to eat some green onions when he stopped her and explained that vegetables had unique qualities, and that some of them were inedible before they were cooked. He made a boiling mishmash since she insisted on eating. He served it to her, and when she tasted it, she loved it. He looked at her happy face while eating, and he thought he could live with her. She was still in denial that people were actually eating that on a regular basis. He mentioned that it should be more meaty, so she would combine it with meat or add some fermented herbs as condiments. She was shocked that it could get even more delicious. While he was making plans, the mermaid was thinking how good he was. He then asked her name, and her name was Plati. Itonami was about to tell her his real name, but he decided to change it and said that his name was Kidan, and stated that he was looking forward to living with her. He started his new life as Kidan in another world with a mermaid. The next morning, Kidan woke up and noticed that Plati wasn't in her bed. He wondered if she was comfortable sleeping on the bed and hoped that she wasn't struggling. He heard a scream, and it was Plati shouting that there was someone in the field, but it was actually the scarecrow with a wooden sword. He explained that scarecrows drive away birds that would ruin the crops. By having it there, the birds would think it was a human and wouldn't come close to the crops. Suddenly, the scarecrow started to move, which was usually impossible. He figured that it was because of his skill. Plati asked if something was wrong with his hands, but he explained that he was summoned there by the king of that country, and he was another worlder. While he was explaining his skills, Plati realized that he was a hero. Kidan was surprised that she knew it. She thought those heroes who summoned from other worlds were using their power to fight with demonkind, and asked what he was doing there. He explained that he didn't like to kill demons, so he basically retired to that place. That was pretty surprising to Plati because land dwellers and humans usually stick together to survive, and if they don't, they would be killed by monsters. She wondered how he was different from them, but he said he was the same race as the one she was speaking of. He then started to think about what to do for breakfast and remembered that she woke up early today. He asked if she was okay and where did she go. Unexpectedly, her face turned red and told him that she had gone to the toilet. She then asked him where did he do it. He said that he was doing in the ocean, which made her pissed off. He tried to defend himself by saying they were doing that while sailing, so the plankton fed on that, then were eaten and made the food chain. She told him that there was no such thing and that she hated exactly that insensitive side about humans. The ocean's food cycle was completed by the ocean's inhabitants. She required him to not impose his older world's dirty ways on her. He begged at her feet and apologized. She suddenly started to run away from him. He didn't understand what she was doing but didn't insist on her to come back. He thought about the toilet situation and realized that he may seem to have forgotten the basics of survival. A part of him was relieved that Plati was there with him. However, he wondered how she felt about that. Plati came back from wherever she was and brought him a starfish-shaped... He felt guilty because of what was happening to her. She blushed for a moment, but then she showed him that her wrist was fine. He was amazed by her. He apologized for being so scared, inconsiderate, and dirty. The reason he fished her was also due to the power he had received. He still had to make her breakfast. Meanwhile, in a dungeon, there was a demon sensing his strange mana close by. In the next scene, Plati is showing her skirt she made from the wrapping cloth she brought in her luggage. He felt sorry for not being resourceful enough. She didn't mind that because a wife made herself presentable for her husband's sake. Besides, she was going out for the first time in a while. He wondered where she was going and she said that she found a dungeon. A dungeon was somewhere you could venture underground and find treasure, fight with monsters, and there was a boss waiting at the bottom layer. It would be easier if he saw it himself, so she took him to the dungeon. The dungeon was 2 hours away. She stated that she found it while he was working in the field. It was a cave-type dungeon. Apparently, dungeons appear where it is abundant in mana. It looked like a normal cave to him, but when he took a step forward, he felt an enormous power. He felt like a large animal was licking his face. Depending on the place, The energy that flows and circulate around the world would stop its flow and stagnate. Those places become dungeons and would become increasingly dense inside the dungeon eventually. It would condense and be reincarnated into monsters. As a result, the monsters born within the dungeons would eventually overflow and invade the earth and its oceans. Kidan was surprised by her words. She mentioned that cleansing the things inside was next to impossible, so they would periodically come back and beat up monsters. Before he could object, she went into the dungeon, and as her husband, he decided to go with her. Inside the dungeon, it was completely different from the entrance. The interior was like a castle. Platy felt something strange and noticed that they were already there. A bunch of different monsters started to run towards them. She told him to stay back and took out a few little tubes. She threw them the tubes and created an explosion. Kidan was already amazed, but it wasn't over. She froze them and struck them with lightning. Lastly, she literally melted them. All of those were thanks to her ability to make battle medicine. She kept walking while he was thinking about how he couldn't choose which one was the monster. He let her handle things there. Besides, he felt like he was useless if he couldn't get a hold of a weapon to use against them. He looked around and found a sword, but it didn't look like he would get the chance to use it. He said that she beat quite a few of them, so he wanted to go home, but she refused. There was something weird about that dungeon she was feeling. The layout of the dungeon and the feeling that those monsters were being led by something means that there was a master there. Dungeons with a master were extremely rare, and they were also extremely dangerous. When he heard that, he looked worried. There were only 2 species that could even become dungeon masters in the first place, which could be a dragon, or something else, but before she could say what it was, they got a weird feeling that Kidan felt at the entrance of the dungeon. The ghostly air proved that there was a dungeon master there, which was the worst of the 2. A king of the undead, Lifeless King. Lifeless King was a powerful and intelligent magician or high priest who decided to turn themselves into an undead during his past life. The immortal monarch that reigns over the undead and encounters him was meant to encounter death. The Lifeless King was feeling that special mana and wanted to turn him into a corpse and welcome him as his companion. She threw some of her potions, but it healed itself. She told him to run and leave that to her since she had some potions, but he could never do such a thing like that. He swung his sword and started to run towards the king while saying he was her husband. Platy was about to tell him to stop, but the king yielded immediately, leaving them in shock. The Lifeless King said that although he used the holy sword to strike him, his power was still frightening. He got so happy that he picked up a holy sword. The king realized that the sword was the one he owned, but that sword was now his, because holy swords have wills of their own and they choose their own masters. And he was the chosen one, and as he lost the holy sword, his duty in that world was over. He informed him that he could strike him down with that sword now. Kidan felt bad and stated that he was probably not the owner of that sword. He explained that he came from another world, and before that, he was given the power to become a master of any tool he held. That power probably reacted with the sword since he was using it. While he was explaining, the king cut his words and couldn't believe him. That was a gift from the gods that was only heard of in legend. That kind of a skill immeasurable within the calculations of a skill, which was probably why the guardian couldn't see any skill. Someone who has received a skill from a god shouldn't even considered a hero, and the king told him that he was a saint. He prostrated him and asked him to allow him to offer him the greatest form of hospitality. Meanwhile, Platy was feeling proud of her husband that she set her eyes upon. The king then asked what brought him to such a place, and he explained that he actually settled down in the area. Platy mentioned that exterminating monsters was the most important thing for someone living there. Monster fur and bones made for great magic tool materials. He couldn't believe the dungeons of that world were actually convenience stores. She then asked if it would be okay to go wild around every once in a while, and the king was okay with it. He was actually cleaning some of the excess monsters himself, so they would be helping him. Suddenly she seemed to like the king as she called him their neighbor. They introduced themselves, and the king had a hard time remembering his name. In his past life, he served as the archbishop of a certain church, and it seemed that for some reason he ended up being pursued and was on the run. He delved into that dungeon and absorbed the stagnating man, where he turned into an undead by placing a great curse upon himself. He seemed to forget the reason why he became an undead in his name. Platy and Kidan felt bad for him, but from now on it would seem his suffering that was boredom would wane, even if only a little bit. Kidan smiled and told him to come visit them sometime. He mentioned that they would welcome him with some of the vegetables they were growing and called him master. He explained.
Well, I'll see you in the morning. See you then.